We are looking now at the methodology for dissolving systemic problems, and we look at the steps involved in ideal system redesign. In overview, the steps are the following. First, we have to choose a framework for analysis and design. Secondly, we need to analyze the problems in the current system and also how it develops into the current future. We need to brainstorm ideals to help us get into the new ideal logic. Then we compile a design notebook that has to do with integrating the brainstorming data in a more logical manner to allow us to create an ideal design. Having done a design, we need to make an implementation plan, and then we need to implement the design. We are looking now at the methodology for dissolving systemic problems, and we look at the steps involved in ideal system redesign. First, framework for analysis and design. What is the theoretical background of the frameworks? Well, the theory of the frameworks are really derived from biomatrix system theory itself. The theory in application gives rise to different frameworks. So the argument for the different frameworks are actually argued by the theory itself. Different types of systems and different types of problems require different frameworks for analysis and redesign. That again has to do with what we discussed in biomatrix theory, that there are different types of systems, and obviously we need to look at those systems accordingly how they are organized and how they function. And what is also often the case is that we are using a different framework for the analysis of a system and another framework for the redesign of the system. And we will explain that as we go on in more detail. We can distinguish different types of frameworks: Cofactor Analysis, the 7 forces of systems organization, and the third one is the multidimensional, multi-level web of the biomatrix. The cofactor analysis involves looking at an issue or at a system and determining the co-producing factors that give rise to that issue or that problem or that system. In application, it is useful in a situation where we have a localized issue analysis. For example, in our weekly planning meetings in an organization, when we are asking what are the cofactors of the recent customer complaints we had, or the breakdown of the production line, what co-caused it, or in our own personal situation, what are the issues involved in my career development. Then it is used for starting brainstorming, because it's very easy to start the free flow, and later on the information produced in that free flow of cofactor analysis can be integrated into other frameworks. And it is generally useful to get a feel for a situation, for an issue, for a system as a starting point. The 7 forces of system organization are those, and we have briefly introduced them in the first module, and we said that every system exists within an environment, that every system has substance, it has resources consisting of matter, energy, information. Every system has ethos, has aims, has process, structure, and governance. Those are the 7 forces that organize how a system unfolds and develops. We are using this framework in application to activity system analysis and redesign. The other application is in entity system analysis and redesign. and we are using this application in our organization transformation program, where we transform and redesign an organization in terms of those 7 forces. Then we have the third type of framework, multi-level, multidimensional web of the biomatrix. So here we have the biomatrix with its multiple levels ranging from the planetary to the societal down to the atomic and subatomic level. And against it, in a matrix fashion, we plot the different dimensions, the psychological, cultural, economic, up to the physical. Where do we apply that framework? Well, that framework is used in our societal transformation program, and we use it for societal problem dissolving, for public policy design, and for supply chain redesign, both vertical and horizontal supply chains. In this module, we use mostly the cofactor analysis, and we use some variations thereof. And the variations of the cofactor analysis could be a free-flow cofactor analysis, stakeholder-based and dimensionality-based. Free flow means we are starting with an issue and we ask what are the cofactors that give rise to that particular issue or that are involved in that particular issue. And as I've mentioned before, the application is in localized issue analysis, the Monday morning planning meeting, etc., to start brainstorming and to get a feel for the issue. One can, however, deepen the understanding of that issue and also widen the analysis if we are plotting cofactors. That looks like this. So we take our first round of cofactors and then we say, what are the cofactors of that first cofactor? What are the cofactors of the next one, next one, next one, next one, and so on. One gets a really much wider and a better understanding if one goes into a second round. And that second round also reveals circular causation. Some of the cofactors in the second round are already cofactors that appear in the first round as well. So that indicates mutual impact. And if we draw a systems dynamics model, this is then circular causation, or it appears as circular causation in the systems dynamics model. Then we can do a cofactor analysis where we are looking, instead of cofactors, we look at stakeholders. So we say, here's an issue, who are our stakeholders? Stakeholder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. What is the application? Well, to identify the stakeholders involved in the issue, those that need to be considered, maybe involved in a change exercise, and so on. We can again plot for each stakeholder specific cofactors. And that could be during problem analysis, for example, that we say what are the problem cofactors that each stakeholder experiences vis-a-vis the issue, or the problem cofactors that a particular stakeholder contributes to the issue. We can also use that analysis during ideal design when we ask what are the concerns or needs, wants of each stakeholder from the issue. This is a very useful brainstorming exercise during system redesign, because it identifies what stakeholders want, and we can then design the system in such a way that it delivers what the stakeholders want or need. We can also use multidimensionality. So we can say, here's an issue. What are its dimensions? Psychological dimension, cultural, economic, political, technological, ecological, physiological, biological, physical dimensions of that issue, and identify then the cofactors concerned with each issue. The application, well, to be more specific in the analysis. Sometimes it's useful to start off with a free flow cofactor analysis. So, for example, at the Monday morning meeting, when we have the breakdown of our production system, what are the cofactors of the breakdown? And we do a free flow. And when no more ideas are forthcoming, then the facilitator could ask, well, were there any psychological cofactors, cultural, economic, technological, and so on? So we can fill in detail. And then, of course, we can become more specific through cofactor analysis in the second round. So we can, again, take our different dimensions and then what are the cofactors of each dimension. Now, one of the theoretical concepts of biomatrix system theory is that we say that systems are holographically configured. So there would be dimensions within dimensions. So if we're looking at cofactors of, for example, economic dimension, and we are going in the second round, then we can say, and what are the cultural cofactors concerned? So if, for example, we are looking at the economy and we identify the finance crisis is one of the cofactors to the problem of poverty, for argument's sake, then we can go in the second round and ask, and what are the cultural cofactors that give rise to the finance crisis? The economic, the technological, the political, the psychological, and so on. So we can gain then a deeper understanding and get much more detailed and can brainstorm a lot of cofactors that give rise to that issue that we are considering. And then we can mix and match those frameworks. We could say, well, here are the cofactors of an issue, or we can start with the stakeholders of an issue, or we can start with multidimensionality. And then in the second round, whatever is in the first round, we could say what are the cofactors of that, or what are the stakeholders of that. So if we have our cofactor of the finance crisis contributing to poverty, and who are the stakeholders of the finance crisis, for example? Or look at the dimensionality of whatever is in the first round. So different mixing and matching gives us different information. I find it useful to vary those frameworks in the sense of asking questions. Could you think of anything else as a facilitator? And sometimes only one or two more new ideas are coming forward when we apply another framework after we have already done another cofactor analysis. Sometimes that is overkill, but sometimes it is important that one identifies those one or two cofactors, additional ones that one wouldn't have thought of if one would have only used one specific application of cofactor analysis.